What up, guys? Welcome back to Think Shank, where we tackle questions about sports that aren't raised nor explored enough as far as we can tell. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkShank and email us at thethinkshank@gmail.com. I'm Skyler Reinhardt, your personal NBA junkie, philosopher, and tour guide, and today, oh boy, we are doing it half for clout and half for sanity because there has been, there's just been a lot that's happened and a lot to reflect on and a lot to sort of explore and analyze. So all of this excitement and intensity for the last third of the season, more or less, are kind of killing me. And if you're watching this in the future, you can probably notice there's a lot I want to get off my chest. So you can find me personally on Twitter at Reinhardt Skyler. That's ReinHardtSkyler, no A's, and Instagram at Skyler Sam, SAM Reinhardt. So what we want to do here is what I'm calling winter break takes. Obviously a reference back to school. Winter over there is, it's a little bit sided as well, but it's not perfectly even. Same thing with this. We have played about 2/3, a little more than 2/3 now, of the regular season. And so the original vision for this series was to get it out before the conclusion of All-Star break. Clearly was not able to do that, having a day job and learning this super fun, realm and skill set, basically, with producing video is what it is. So sorry I'm a little bit late, but I really, really think that this series, while it is pretty dense and pretty detailed, I think it is going to be very insightful, even with a lot of the statistics pulling from kind of Wednesday, Thursday last week, right before we were supposed to resume. But directionally, thematically, I really, really think this is going to be insightful for everyone. All right. So concept here, winter break takes, is to pump the brakes and take a look around. We want to answer this question. What have we seen from this year's contenders so far? And here's the framework that I developed to motivate the answer for it. So number one, the storylines for each of the contending teams, what is kind of defined, trades, emojis, whatever. The finalized rosters, glimpses of the strengths, weaknesses that have stuck out to me, both on the court as well as intangibles. And then, of course, the improvement areas to close out in the regular season. So I have, verbally, audio, video, I want to walk through sort of my thoughts and everything there. But importantly, I want to call out, check the pinned files on my socials. So I will be uploading these sort of one-page summaries, executive summaries, if you will. That's going to organize a lot of my findings in the format that I just outlined for each one of the contending teams. I just wanted one view for each of the teams. If you don't have time to listen to all this stuff, and I know it's pretty dense and pretty long, so I am not going to take it personally, but I am just a very, very passionate believer and harbor of radical transparency. I think it is amazing that people, talk about things and bring up statistics and bring up analysis and things like that. But personally, I just find it really hard to keep things straight and actually log things. And so, it's not necessarily about dumping a bunch of stuff on you. I just want it there for reference. So if you, of course, want to scrub through this video or episode, or not the episode, you just play which episode you want, but if you want to just check out those files and take a look there as well, there probably will be a little bit more detail than I'm going to cover even in each one of these episodes, but wanted to share that with you guys. So at least we're all looking and reading off of the same page. And also, it should be helpful to reference once the regular season is done. So without further ado, I said the thing about statistics from last week, so without further ado, please enjoy this episode. We are covering a lot. So thank you so much for tuning in, and let's think Shank. Hi. Welcome back, guys. So without further ado, the franchise that cannot stay out of the limelight for more than 16 hours, maybe. The Los Angeles Lakers currently 9th in the Western Conference. If I double check very quickly, it looks like they are still at 9, which is great. About a half game behind Golden State in 10. So here we are with this team, and there is quite a bit to get into. So I just want to try my best to keep this as relevant but useful maybe as possible. I imagine the use case that anybody who randomly ends up watching this video or listening to this podcast is, what do I need to know about this team, and how are their odds actually, and what deficiencies should I be aware of, and maybe some matchup stuff. But so basically not too much about the actual storylines and summary of things. I don't know. This is basically its own drama TV show, so maybe I could be wrong here. But I'm going to try my absolute best to kind of just write off some of the fluff stuff and try to keep it actually relevant to the court and the sport, and what we are getting ourselves into if we're going to tune back in to watch this team. Okay, so like I said, 9th in the Western Conference, and overall this season they are 30-26. As of 2024, they're 13-9, and then just because them and the Warriors, I don't know revenue-wise, but they must be probably the top 2 franchises in terms of ratings and everything else. But in addition, they've just recently had, each has had their own sort of push as far as finding kind of rotation discoveries. And at least with the Lakers, what I'll get into is the trade deadline thing. With every single LeBron team, there's always a bunch of drama around it. And once the trade deadline is passed, then it's kind of like everyone can breathe finally. And it's just, it's showtime. It's time to actually put up or shut up. So, obviously, they have played better, but I am also including the past 2 weeks for the overall team performance as well. All right, so this is coming in after, Wednesday, Thursday last week, so this is about a week old. Could be a little bit off here, but directionally, thematically, it should be accurate. All right, sorry. Overall for the season, 30-26. As of 2024, or since New Year's, they are 13-9, and then the past 2 weeks, they are 6-1. Past 2 weeks would be the 2 weeks leading up to All-Star break. All right. Net differential is 17th overall this season. They are 13th in 2024, and they are 5th in the past 2 weeks. Offensive rating, this is a shocker. Overall, they are 18th. This year, they are 12th. And for the past 2 weeks, they are number 1 in the NBA. Defensively, they are overall 15th. This year, they are 19th. And then in the past 2 weeks, they have improved all the way up to 9th. So within the past 2 weeks, just to recap, they have been 6-1. Their net differential is 5th best in the NBA. Their offensive rating is 1st in the league, and their defensive rating is 9th. That is virtually a completely different team. Here it is. That's the last 2 weeks. Here it is for the season one more time. 30-26. Net differential of 17th in the league out of 30, obviously. Offensive rating is 18th. Defensive rating is 15th. That is slightly below average to easily a title contender. Obviously, past 2 weeks is only a small sample size, so take it with what you will. Starting unit, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Taurean Prince, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Off the bench, you have Vincent. If he ever plays basketball again, I will just say it now. I actually think he is an incredible oversight in the general public discussion of it. When you think back to his performance and impact in Miami's run last year, it was basically him and Kyle Lowry as your point guards for a team that beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Granted, Giannis was hurt for 2 games, and beat the Boston Celtics, and then obviously got smoked by Denver, but who didn't? So I I'm trying to remember exactly the nature of his injury, but he literally has played He's played under 10 games, where we played about 60 now, the entire season. And I believe the last time I looked into the reporting about a week ago, I think it was sometime in March, was the timetable the Lakers had set for his return. So should be coming out very, very shortly, and provided, whatever the nature of the injury is, like he seems 80, 85, 90th percentile of what that was. I like that a lot. I like his not even primary, but secondary playmaking. His outside shooting was fantastic. He was much better on defense than I think people... Actually, he did get some good recognition for it. He was very feisty. So, excited for that. Additionally, you have Spencer Dinwiddie, the super recent addition, as of what was it, the week before All-Star break? Which, in its own side note thing, I just have to say, this is the most kind of movie star mafia shit I've ever seen. Was Spencer got traded to the Raptors from Brooklyn and got bought out immediately, and then literally the next day or maybe the day after, he just showed up in the stands at the Lakers home game, sitting right next to Rob Pelinka, who everyone and their sister can recognize. He is obviously the head honcho over there as far as team orchestration and GM things. So they were just sitting there watching the game, and literally, the news broke or whatever, he was bought out like the day before, and everyone was like, wow. And they're not even like talking, they're just sitting there in the sand. It was very, very jarring. I was like, what in the mafia family is going on? Okay, he's ours. He is going to come to the Lakers, and sure enough, he did. Great. Also have Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt. He is currently hurt. He should be back. I actually am not even sure. Probably by, I don't know. I'm certain it is going to be in the regular season, but I just have to double check on that. But yeah, he is obviously in their lineup as well. Jackson Hayes gets in there a little bit sometimes, not too often, but just a heads up on that. Yeah, Max Christie, unfortunately, isn't really cracking the lineup, and I'm trying to think if there's anybody else I'm missing that, didn't actually make it in here. I think that's pretty much it. That's like 9 guys right there. So there you have it. Okay, season summary. This is where I really got to lock in and got to shine as a podcaster, show host person, and simplify, streamline as best as I can. Okay, here we go. Number 1 storyline is the excellent Pelinka offseason. Okay. Taurean Prince, Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent were the 3 big kind of acquisitions they made in the offseason over the summer that Rob Pelinka landed for them. And if you think back to the temperature check on the Lakers coming into the season, it was actually really good. Midway through last season, basically at the trade deadline last year, they, of course, made that big thing to get out of the Russell Westbrook deal, which, funny enough, was basically a demerit on LeBron's resume as lay GM, because it was super clear that the whole Russell Westbrook experience for the Lakers was mostly spearheaded by LeBron, and then it was terrible, and then they had to literally get rid of him. It was kind of like the Grant Williams trade this year for Dallas, kind of. The Lakers ended up getting D'Angelo Russell in return. So in addition to the actual acquisitions or whatever, they also signed Russell to what most people saw at the time as a laughably overcompensated contract to D'Lo. I think it was like a 2-year thing. He was making like $18 or $20 million or something just this year alone. Everybody saw that and was like, oh, that's a trade piece. Clearly they're going to flip that. And funny enough, Rui Hachimura, who they acquired before getting off of Westbrook, they just got him from Washington, I think for a couple second rounds or something like that. I can't remember fully. The combination of Rui's salary with D'Angelo Russell's literally added up to Kyrie Irving's, and there was a lot of chatter around this kind of 4D chess thing of, here you go, this is our plan for the mid-season trade deadline move. And so anyway, that was another thing Pelinka did. So we got, Jared Vanderbilt, who is up there with Jaden McDaniels, he's a defensive specialist. He's like 6'9", really long, really lanky. Borderline the exact same fucking person as Jaden McDaniels, except Jaden McDaniels is actually has a pulse, shows a pulse on offense. Vanderbilt is slightly and very slightly less of a one-dimensional player than Rudy Gobert. He is that useless on offense, and it is very disappointing. I will get to that. Taurean Prince, he was a great. I'm trying to remember actually. Was it Minnesota? I can't remember what team he was plucked from, but he had fallen obviously out of rotation there. But he had some really nice flashes. I can't remember exactly where it was now, but good outside shooter. Pretty serviceable on-ball defender at that kind of small forward position. I think of Taurean Prince. I think of Jay Crowder. I think they're like pretty similar to me. Taurean's probably a better shooter, but overall impact, if you will, is like pretty similar. And then Gabe Vincent, like I said, he was a very integral part of that insane Miami run last year. Backup, point guard, ball handler, and just insane shooting, honestly. Him and Caleb Martin were the two guys that just kind of tapped each other back in and out, and as far as just tough shot making in the playoffs, and virtually nobody really even knew who these guys were. Very cool. Excuse me. Okay. So that is the excellent Pelinka offseason. Now, once the season started, I'm going to fast forward to here's a title. Darvin Ham and the Curse of the IST ring, or the in-season tournament ring. If you didn't know this, the Lakers won the first ever in-season tournament back in early December, but it was mostly in November. The Lakers, so couple the buzz coming into the season with the acquisitions that Pelinka made. I don't want to say on the margins, but kind of, it basically, for the Lakers, they are the land of the superstars. They're notorious for spoiling. We are going to lure stars to come want to play for us, and they have won. They've won that fight for a very long time, but they obviously have not been very successful since Kobe Bryant, but that is their thing. And so I say that to say, when they made all the off-season moves and they didn't get a star, they actually took the depth route. One, that was different. Two, that just, the fact that it was different, I think, just generated a lot of excitement. That carried over all the way up through the in-season tournament, and that's where you saw the best basketball the Lakers still potentially may have actually played this entire season. They were supremely dominant in that run. Granted, it is so early in the season that a lot of teams are literally still figuring their shit out. Who is playing when and with who and why and what. So, I mean, as far as actual greatness and whatever, like, I don't really take too much of that. Like, take a grain of salt with whatever that is. But, excuse me, now that we are on the other side of the trade deadline this year, I think it kind of can, at least as far as what we saw on the Lakers side. So I say that to say it's not like looking at, oh my God, they're like dominated Indiana in the finals and Indiana sucks with whatever size and length and defense. You know what I mean? Like, don't look at the opponent performance. I just look at the Lakers stuff and how they did stuff schematically, and that was pretty telling and interesting. Now, because they did make a move at the trade deadline this year, which is crazy for a Bron team. Okay. Why do I call it the curse of the IST ring? Well, the Lakers won the in-season tournament and then promptly right after took a massive shit across the board, and that took form of many different forms. I actually wish I had double-clicked into just that stretch from like December and in January, the entire months of those, but they had some health issues. I think Rui was in and out for a minute. I think they didn't even have Dinwiddie yet, so I apologize. I mean, they didn't get him on the trade deadline. They got Dinwiddie from the buyout market. It's a technically different thing, but I apologize. Rui was kind of hurt. They were kind of swapping a lot of guys in and out of lineups. They were having a lot of issues with their actual kind of playmaking, initiation stuff. They were still doing pretty well in transition, and all the bread and butter stuff for a LeBron James team is serviceable defense and then get out and run and transition, use physicality, get to the free throw line. But the offense was really, really under the microscope and the hot topic there, and they were really, really struggling right after winning this tournament. And that's when you started getting the Darvin Ham chatter, okay? So first of all, I want to echo Austin Rivers, who on his Ringer podcast, Off Guard, brought up specifically a couple really good and I think like important notes and whatever insights about this kind of stretch in this span of time here. But just generally speaking, he is completely unrelated, but he is actually extremely well-spoken and insightful. I have grown as a fan and adamant kind of admirer of his as a media member tremendously throughout the course of the season. It used to be a little bit cringy, but he's actually really, really good. So good for him. He's on like ESPN now or NBA TV or whatever. I don't even watch TV, but this is an example of that. So a couple different things. So win-loss columns were not looking good after the in-season tournament. The vibes were just really, really down. Darvin Ham was getting arrowed after every single game. He's trying to come up and explain things away. They've got bad losses. Again, Bron is literally 39 years old, and he was doing the thing. So this isn't anything new. He was in the stage of the season where it felt like he was getting his, and he was, relatively speaking for him, because he is so great, playing very uninspired basketball. It was very, I am doing mine, no one else on this team is good, I am making it look like I am dragging this team through the mud, and he was saying literally in the locker room, like, we suck right now, and kind of shitting on his own team, which I personally don't find attractive. I don't love that. I think that's really selfish and stupid. But that was what was going on. And then again, of course, you have all of the daytime media talking head people saying, we need to guillotine Darvin Ham. Kill him and run him through the streets. The big thing with that was the lineup issue. They were constantly cycling guys in and out of the lineups. I mentioned Max Christie before, the only super young guy on the team who had been getting minutes. As they've come into form now, and it's not a function of Dinwiddie or anything else really changing, he is not even in the lineup. Jackson Hayes is not in the lineup anymore, but you understand what I'm saying. There's a lot of experimentation, and Darvin wasn't really... I don't think he had firmly acknowledged or internalized the limitations kind of the roster, or rather the reality of having a roster that they ended up having. And I'm going to double click on that very, very explicitly and very intentionally, because I actually think it's extremely important and extremely relevant to not only characterize a season, but serve as an input to our thinking as we go forth in finishing out the regular season, but primarily the playoffs. Okay, so that was Darvin Ham and the curse of the in-season tournament ring. So they won it, so there's a ring. All right, next. As we neared the trade deadline, which was February 13th or something like that, within the second week of February, right around the Super Bowl, you started to get, again, with the standard storyboard framework of every single LeBron James team, is relatively confident start, I can't believe this is my life meme, and then life gets hard, and then Bron starts to pout and vibes are bad, and then of course you start seeing virtually every single player's name on this roster in trade discussions online. Crazy how that works, and doubly crazy how their performance absolutely craters when after games you feel like you are going to get fired from your job. Getting laid off or fired is not very fun. Getting shipped off to a brand new place where you have to bring your family and yada, yada, yada. I can't directly empathize, but I have to think probably not amazing for your on-court performance. And what ended up happening? Well, I say that in relation to the curse of the in-season tournament ring. It's like back to the pouting and the leadership stuff from LeBron, the thing about that makes that even more detrimental, in my opinion, is he has the pull with the GM and the owners and whatever to make changes that could result in the trapdoor opening and you are gone. And we've seen this film a million times with LeBron, okay? So what ended up happening as we got closer to the trade deadline? Well, we had a D'Angelo Russell renaissance and a Rui Hachimura reveal. And let me take those one at a time. Number one, D'Angelo Russell. If you did not know this, he got, he slipped into the All-Star, game, a handful of years ago now when he was back in Brooklyn. He is known as a very flashy, inconsistent offensive point guard in the league. Flashy both in terms of shot making, but also playmaking. He has insanely nice passes sometimes, but, they are sandwiched between horrendous turnovers and kind of boneheaded plays, So that had kind of been the storyline, at least at the end of 2023 and around New Year's. But then as we got closer to the February trade deadline, the fact that I mentioned his contract value was really, really nice as a trade chip and whatever was a serious function in what I have to say has to be, besides James Harden, honestly, like integrating, coming over to the Clippers and being such an incredible cornerstone for that newly contending team now that is truly, truly a top-tier contender. Besides that redemption story, D'Lo has to be, I think, has to be the second. Maybe Rudy Gobert. I don't know. It depends on where you land. But in the I'm trying to remember what the stats were. I should have looked this up. But it was let's just say the 10-ish or so games, literally leading right up until the trade deadline. He started averaging out of nowhere 25 points and 10 assists a night. The exact opposite of letting go of the rope, if you will, in terms of, oh my God, I'm not playing really well. LeBron wants to push me out anyway. Fuck him and fuck this team. I don't really care. Let go of the rope and suck. He did the opposite, which I have to say again is extremely, extremely admirable. And even more so when he was asked. He was literally asked by reporters after one of these games where he's just literally started shooting the shit out of the ball. He had the game against Golden State. He had maybe the most insanely both impressive but terrifying shots of the season, where they were in a gridlocked dogfight of a game in the fourth quarter that, again, was in this Goldilocks zone where he has just been electric. In the fourth quarter, so he had played pretty well. I think he played a bunch of minutes in the second quarter or something like that. And again, he's making shots. He's hot now. And he also he played with Golden State as well. You didn't know that. Look into that. But fast forward to the fourth quarter, he had this insane sequence of back-to-back turnovers in transition, straight up turn the ball over. I think the score was either tied or the Lakers were down 1. And again, back-to-back turnovers, had to be within the last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, no time to mess around right now. And I believe it was in LA, and I say that because I can remember the sense of the crowd there, not that I was there, just through the TV, but the butt cheeks are clenched, the moment is extremely, extremely tense, and literally the play after that, right, he is the point guard, he's going to be initiating the offense, except for when Bron does, but for whatever reason he didn't have it then. 2 turnovers in a row. After the second turnover, Golden State misses their shot, I think. They definitely did, because he did not get the defensive rebound. I think it was Anthony Davis. I can't remember exactly who it was, but somebody got the defensive rebound, and they were trying to push it. I'll get into the actual numbers here, but the first thing to know about the schematics for the LA Lakers is they love transition because their half-court shit sucks balls. So run really fast, get to the free throw line whenever possible. D'Lo knew this, takes off, guy who got the board, hits him with the hit-ahead pass, and D'Angelo Russell takes a stop on a dime, pull-up three-point jump shot, unbelievable balls of steel type of shit, and swishes the fuck out of the shot. I take back what I said before about 4 minutes. I actually think it was closer to the end of the game. I should have double-checked this. But it was like clutch time. Unbelievable that you would even have the gall to do that. One, on a LeBron James team, when you are clearly like first on the chopping block as far as the guillotine of the head, your head is going to roll if this shot doesn't fall. On top of the fact that you have already been in virtually every Lakers trade discussion already this season. On top of the fact that you just had back-to-back turnovers in this marquee game, and he swished the shit out of it. And it was unbelievable to me as a fan, just watching tough shot making. Everybody becomes a 12-year-old. It is just great to see it and really entertaining. And then you, on top of that, even saw, at least I remember seeing, the reaction of the Warriors on the floor too was like you just ran over the team dog or something. And they were absolutely just crushed. Half crushed, sorry, not crushed, whatever. Like half like, God damn it, but mostly and primarily like they themselves were floored that he had the gall to even take the shot. And then of course, once it goes down, that's when it's like, God fucking damn it. But I'm just trying to give some context here. Like, there was a lot of heart and balls. That's weird. I have never said those two things back to back in a string like that. But heart and balls from this guy, D'Lo, who is known as not the most mature, point guard in the league and whatever. And sorry, that brings me back to the Austin Rivers thing is, his mindset was everything that happens to the Lakers because of who they are, the franchise, the star stuff, just gets way overblown and way magnified. And of course, he said that in the context of D'Angelo Russell, who he played with. Austin Rivers played with D'Lo when he was over in Minnesota, and another thing Rivers said was like, what my recommendation to D'Angelo would be is like, stop worrying about your own individual numbers. When you think about actual impact and how you're going to get yourself to stay on the roster, basically, it's not just necessarily putting up that 20 to 25 points a game type of thing. And if you watch D'Lo play, you can literally just see, smell, sense when he is just tunnel vision blinders on, like, I need to shoot this shot, and it's high level of difficulty. He is a good shot maker, but it's not the right decision a lot of the time. Rivers is like, you need to impact the game, and that can take the form of, assists, playmaking, rebounding, everything else. Obviously take shots when they're warranted, when they're open, when they make sense, but like, you don't have to force those kinds of things. So I say all that to say, in addition to making that insane shot against Golden State, you fast forward to in my opinion, like the second marquee game of the season for the Lakers, which, funny enough, was when LeBron and Anthony Davis didn't even play. This is in the heart, maybe like a week and a half before the trade deadline. And side note, I actually think this had to have been like, maybe not the thing that broke the camel's back, but like it had to be pretty close to it. The Los Angeles Lakers supporting cast, a.k.a. everybody, literally everybody except, well, Gabe Vincent doesn't play, but basically everybody except for LeBron and AD plays the Boston Celtics, who is the juggernaut of the entire season this year. They are the best in differential. They are the best talent, 1-6 or whatever. Look like absolute world beaters, and I'll do my analysis of them later on, but they are by far, the most airtight, bulletproof team in the league. The Lakers supporting cast not only beat them in TD Garden, but fucking waxed them. And it was so resounding and so, frankly, embarrassing for LeBron. Of course, he is on the bench watching his own team play significantly better with him and Anthony Davis on the bench and literally beating the world-beating Boston Celtics of this year. And it was so bad, and you could tell it got so deep under LeBron's skin. And mind you, again, they this is before I think things really, really started to pick back up for them in the past 2 weeks, or now like 3-4 weeks or something. They were playing really bad, and then LeBron and AD sits, and then all of a sudden everybody starts enjoying playing basketball again and aren't fucking terrified of LeBron like slapping the shit out of them with a ruler, whatever, like a school teacher. LeBron literally leaves the bench and goes into the locker room when there are still like 10 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And again, it was a blowout win, again, for the Lakers without their two best, like, okay, it's a blowout win, whatever. A lot of times guys don't shake hands or give a shit about that. I'm not saying that, but like, he didn't even dap up his teammates who just did the unthinkable. I would love to know, honestly, what kind of money got moved and how many people got fucked off of betting on that game. I can't imagine what the spread must have been, but like, oh my God, he didn't even like dap up his fucking teammates who did the unthinkable. Terrible look for LeBron. Terrible look for the franchise, frankly, as far as giving this dude kind of the keys to the franchise, not to mention the Russell Westbrook background story of shitting the bed all over the bed on that. And now clearly, the questions of, well, are you the problem then? I know you guys are struggling. Like, what's going on there, Bron? You and AD didn't play. AD, credit to him, was fired up on the sideline, was actually dapping guys up after that insane upset. Like, it was just a very, very bad look. And sorry, to mix in with all of those things, you have the Rui Hachimura thing, which I'm going to get into the lineups a little bit more in depth here, but I just want to call out that Hachimura really struggled to get his own minutes for most of the season, at least up through probably the trade deadline, mostly, when they knew he was going to stick around and, okay, we really got to figure this out. Rui really struggles to guard guards / small forwards. If you didn't know this, Rui Hachimura, he is a huge person. He is like 6'9" or something, and he's from Japan, which, side note, is just fascinating to me. I don't know why. I guess this is probably offensive somehow, but I just kind of think of Jeremy Lin a little undersized guard or what. No, he is like enormously tall and like got that Dwight Howard kind of proportional. Like, he's a normal person. He's not like a Brandon Ingram or McDaniels thing where you're like a twig, you're like a grasshopper person. He is like a normal proportion, like Aaron Gordon, Paulo, whatever. Okay. I watched Rui's documentary on Netflix, and the reason I bring this up is probably the biggest takeaway or insight, little nugget I took away from that was he said in it that his biggest inspiration growing up, basketball-wise, was Carmelo Anthony. First of all, I don't know if I've ever heard a single person ever say that before. Second of all, it makes 1,000,000% sense that that is the case, because Rui, despite the size and the girth and the potential upside when it comes to the physicality and whatever, in the sense that I'm not surprised at all that the Lakers targeted him from Washington to get him in here. He's a big, big body. But his actual offensive game is so similar to Carmelo Anthony. He loves settling for jump shots, really likes the mid-range. He's actually been really, really good this season. I think as of last night, the Lakers had a huge comeback win against the Clippers. They just said on the broadcast, I think he's up to like 40% from three this year, which is obviously huge for the Lakers. They just need as much shooting as they can get, even though they're actually not that bad at threes. But floor spacing for LeBron is step zero to team success, so good. And the reason why I have Rui reveal here is particularly post the trade deadline, again, when they were like, okay, we should probably figure out how to get this guy minutes. Again, the issue was we don't want to wear out LeBron James by having him play the small forward position and have Rui play the power forward position. And when I say positions, that basically, the only thing that means is that is who they are guarding on the other team, okay? Rui definitely struggles to guard small forwards and guards in space. Speed and quickness is not his strength, it's his weakness. And that is why, in the early parts of the season, I believe they were like, we can't put all these minutes on LeBron guarding these faster, smaller players and shit like that. Therefore, Rui, you're going to have to take a back seat. Instead, we're going to play Taurean Prince. And, we'll insert Vando depending on who we need him to basically guard up and down. Vanderbilt can literally guard 1 through 5. He's that gifted. But that is my point, is post the deadline, they were like, fuck it. We actually need this to work. And especially back to that Boston upset, he balled out and proceeded to continue to ball out when it wasn't just that Bron and AD, sat in that game or whatever. Somebody has to take the shots, and it was Rui. And I think he did really well, not only just overall output, but efficiency and everything. And I think that might have been one of the first kind of aha moments where it's like, oh shit, everybody knows who follows basketball that offense was the problem for the Lakers. And honestly, that has mostly been the case for most of his teams. Is like the formula with LeBron is give me like the 10th best defense and like the 12th best offense, but that offense, at least when it really matters, is going to be me with the ball, and everyone get the fuck out. Space out, get out of my way, and let me play make or let me beat this guy one-on-one. That's how we're going to win. Obviously on this roster is not completely like that. You obviously have Anthony Davis, but looking back to when they won the chip in 2020, one of the most interesting case studies, potentially, at least of this decade for sure, is the fact during that run, Anthony Davis turned into one of the greatest jump shooters like ever, and never to be seen from again. And at least for this year, he is not even close to being utilized in the same way. Although in that Clipper matchup, which again, I would have thought size, you think of the Clippers, Zubac didn't even play either. Like, the entire game, not that this is relevant particularly, but AD was getting, because the Clippers switch 1 through 5, basically. AD was getting switched on a James Harden, and they just weren't feeding him the ball to just eat. I don't know why, but anyway, I say that to say, like, mostly, generally speaking this season, AD has mostly been used to his strengths, which is get in the dunker spot, be maybe the greatest lob finisher ever, honestly. Tune into Some Thinking Basketball or some shit, and like they actually break that down and tell you from an analytical perspective why he is, at least has a very good argument as being one of the best lob finishers of all time. But anyway, keep him in the dunker spot, clean up misses, and lob finish, and basically don't do anything you did in 2020. Do not take jump shots, do not settle, do not take outside shots. It is fine. Okay. So Anthony Davis is going to be at the 5. Post-deadline again, we have Bron playing the small forward, and so the lineup that they have been playing the most is, I should have updated this from the start, and I apologize. This starting lineup is actually outdated as of, again, the trade deadline. But the lineup they have been playing or starting / closing with now, because now Rui has been revealed, remember, is D'Lo, Reeves, LeBron at small forward. We're in the home stretch, and we need fucking wins, so I don't care about how many minutes LeBron plays. It's time to go. We're not getting out of the play-in. We're not getting fucked over. So D'Lo, Reeves, Bron, Rui, AD. Rui's coming in at the 4, right, for kind of that defensive matchup. I think that is the right call. Once Vanderbilt comes back, don't be surprised if Vanderbilt takes that spot, depending, again, obviously on defensive assignments. If they really, really do need, to shut down Steph Curry in a play-in matchup or something, like Vanderbilt at 6'9 plus can literally do that. Cool. So that is D'Lo Renaissance and Rui reveal. Last storyline here before we jump into the meat of this is Bron trade deadline V8. They said no. Oh, thank God. I basically already covered that. At the trade deadline, they technically didn't make any moves. They did sign Spencer Dinwiddie after the trade deadline because he was in the buyout market. And the Lakers were under some certain cap or luxury cap or some shit like that. So they were actually able to get him. The last thing I just want to say, not because you asked, but I feel like to a certain extent, I almost really want to shine a light on and defend the supporting cast on the LA Lakers this year for being just so tough and so resilient. And even though, again, they're 9th in the Western Conference, they're just showing so much strength now. And my gut says, for my money, I don't know if I see them doing exactly what they did last year, where they made it all the way to the conference finals after finishing 7th in the West, and they basically did what they're probably going to have to do this year, is start in the play-in, upset, and in order to even get to the conference finals. If that's going to happen, obviously the supporting cast is going to need to be huge. But the last thing I just want to say here, just the overall bullshit that LeBron James has displayed this season has not been a, absolutely cataclysmic, like North Pole, South Pole flipping, mindset, reputational flip for me. I am an enormous fan, stan, whatever you want to call it, of LeBron James, his accomplishments, his longevity, his commitment to the game, his ability to evolve alongside of it and be unbelievably effective and successful at it. As an ambassador of the league for so long as well, the ability to overcome all of the unbelievable expectations on him basically since high school is unparalleled, unbelievable, unfathomable for someone like me to think about. But I mentioned a few things already that I think are, relatively speaking, inexcusable for somebody who has been so steadfastly an incredible leader and role model, an ambassador of the league. So role model to the young players, the Ja Morants, the Lukas, whatever, Shea. So the stuff about the body language stuff on the court when the season wasn't going well, where it was like, I'm going to get mine. You said the team sucked, or at least sucked right now, which is not okay to be doing. You stormed out after the greatest upset and display of heart and passion by your actual team the entire season without you even on the court. If anything, that should have been the happiest you had been all season, but you chose to be kind of selfish and self-centered about that and storm out without even outwardly congratulating and celebrating those guys for what they did. And in addition to that, you have, and I'm not going to spend much time on it, the emoji bullshit, which I think for me was the tipping point of this season, where I'm sure the team itself is going to be successful, relatively speaking. I really, really do think that this team is a playoff team more than a regular season team, and I think they're going to be more successful than people anticipate this postseason. But again, I just want to make sure this gets in the record somewhere of how kind of stupid this shit has really been. Right, so in addition to those things I've just laid out, I just want to clarify on the record the emoji thing and the New York Knicks thing. So the emoji thing is maybe the most outright diva thing I feel like he's done. Usually he'll make passive-aggressive comments and things, like in post-game conferences or something else along those lines. This was in the public forum. This was on Twitter. And so in lead up to the trade deadline, basically LeBron James tweets out the hourglass emoji, but specifically the hourglass emoji, there are two versions. There's one with it mostly full on the top, and then one with it mostly full on the bottom, and he went with the latter one because it basically signifies that time is almost up. And again, this is not long at all before the trade deadline, and of course, as usual, there are a million different interpretations of that. LeBron James, will not be a top 10 to 15 player in the league for much longer. I am running out of patience with the insufficient performance of this team. Darvin Ham is running out of time on this planet Earth. I don't know. And of course, it was just insanity because, again, with the performance of the Lakers, that was the team. It's like, oh my God, we need to get DeJounte Murray. We need to get a guard. We can't run half-court actions or plays. We have no play creation besides LeBron in late game and blah, 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 blah. Even that in and of itself is annoying at most and whatever, exert the pressure on the franchise and you are the second best player of all time, or to some people the best. I don't really care. I suppose when you are at that level, you are entitled to certain things. But okay, that is not even the issue. What I think actually bothered me the most about it was he just straight up refused to talk to the media for 3 days after that. Oh, and by the way, he tweeted that at like 2:49 a.m. His local time. I think they were on the East Coast at the time or something. So it was some weird like Juice WRLD late sad boy type shit. And then, yeah, he just no-showed the media. Just was like, no, I'm good. I don't have to do that. Most of the time, most players actually do fucking have to deal with that. Especially when you do shit in the public space that could literally alter people's employment and lives. Dude. I don't know, man. I am probably white knighting this a little too much. I don't know. I just did not appreciate that. I didn't, and it's not even like I have any skin in that game. It is just so self-centered. I read The Hourglass as him talking about himself and his ability to have enough of an impact to satisfy his own ego on a contending team. I think a potential nightmare scenario for LeBron James, ready for this potential hot take, is if he gets too old to the point where he basically can't get his 20 points a game and impact a game, whatever, like he is going to retire before he ever dips below that. I'm going to tell you that right now. He's not going to ride off into the sunset like Vince Carter and Dirk, where they were like, whatever, like 10 points a night or some other bullshit. Fuck no. He is going to ride off in the sunset still with his numbers. Do not get it twisted. And so the Hourglass he's talking about himself. That's what it's about. In my opinion, obviously, I did not interview him, but that's what I think. It is, I am running out of patience. I am running out of time in my own body to have enough of an impact to satisfy my ego, my legacy, my. And you are in my way, or you are holding me back. So, great. Next, the Knicks shit. They went over and played an MSG, also in lead up to the trade deadline. This is, again, in action-packed, like literally in the span of a week. There's all this shit going on. Nobody could stop talking about LeBron James. It was insufferable, but they go over to MSG and, well, they win the game, but really the only reason people really ended up talking about it, the only main headlines and bullshit was how much LeBron was flirting with the Knicks as a franchise and potential suitor. And you do not, so this is where I land on a lot of things in life. Not that you asked, but this is relevant to the story, but I'm just going to clue you in on something. You don't get to play dumb when you are known and recognized to be smart as hell, whether that's basketball or non-basketball related, okay? You have books and shit. They're in an innumerable number of articles and shit and all this stuff about your monetary investments and how you make a lot of money and how you have the best IQ in basketball and all of these things. You don't get to do that. You don't get to reap that benefit, but then also post this bullshit on your social medias and be like, oh, I had no idea that was going to be taken that way. Bullshit, dude. I can't stand that. I can't stand when people play dumb. Sorry, I'm reacting without actually even telling you what happened. What happened was, he showed up to the actual game in orange and blue fucking sneakers, and his fit was all on the Knicks brand. He posts on his Instagram a photo of him. It was basically somebody from the rafters or something, has him in center court, the big old New York Knicks logo all around him, and he's got nothing but, 40-year-old mom emoji loving things to say about the Garden and how much he loves to play there. And of course, with LeBron, he always has the scapegoat of, yeah, I'm really old. I don't know how many more times I'm going to do this. Really cool. And then he also had in that stream of photos in the IG post or whatever is like him with a New York Knicks like towel around his shoulders, which I guess somebody literally had to confirm afterwards. Like everybody was actually given those, so it just happened to be a thing where like it's not like he like requested a New York Knicks towel to then put around his shoulders after the game or something and then have somebody take a picture of him with it. So it wasn't like overly staged, I guess, but like again, you're tweeting hourglass emojis, bro. Your team hasn't been great, bro. You're shitting on your team to the public, bro. What do you think people are gonna do with that? That's not nice, that's not cool, that's not good leadership, that's not good. Like, what the fuck, dude? If I was, and this is why I'm sorry, I go back to the D'Angelo Russell, like, good for him, dude. Like, that is, I don't know, that would have fucked with my mentals. You know, people respond to pressures differently, and obviously I'm not a professional athlete, and I don't know if I have the killer instinct that a lot of these guys at least have to have to a certain level in order to even get there, but, like, this dude is fucking just in his own movie, on his own movie set, man, and you might be the, you know, pawn on the table that just gets knocked the fuck out because of what he wants. And generally speaking, it is fine because of, like, I have been fine with most of it in totality as far as what his teams have done and when they overhaul the rosters and things. But he has not gone about it, I don't think, like this. Like, he hasn't said, we suck. He hasn't stormed off the court when his team played well without him. He hasn't posted this immature, like, schoolgirl shit. Oh my God, Knicks, I like your hair today. Like, what are we doing right now, bro? That's just a stupid example. It's really, really stupid. I'm sorry. And I didn't mean for this. I said I was going to make this whole thing, try to not make it an entire fucking rant and whatever. I just was really, really turned off and disappointed in how LeBron James conducted himself as a leader and ambassador and role model in this league this year. That being said, I am, of course, going to be supporting him and backing him throughout the rest of the regular season and playoffs, but, like, that is what I meant when I said I want to make sure, if for no other reason, for me to have this somewhere on the internet where somebody cared enough to tell this story. Not good. Bad. Fuck all that. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So I can also shit on Embiid for him being a selfish prick and really not caring about his own team. And I did that in, the second episode of this entire podcast, whatever. And I can also do it to LeBron. So let's be real here. I'm trying to be my own person, and this is sincerely how I feel about these things. So do what you will. Okay, the last thing I'm going to say to put a ribbon on this, and I said it a couple times already, is the name of the storyline that caused all of this breakdown is Bron trade deadline V8. I said V8 because that was the year he first came back to Cleveland. It's been 8 years since then. Fun fact, time flies. I think after his stint in Miami is when this whole diva stuff started happening, and every single trade deadline, it was constantly like, we need to improve, and this whole movie series started. So that's what the V8 refers to, and then it's : they said no. The Lakers actually said no, and there were a lot of reasons behind that. They really didn't have much trade capital to use. They had to include a first-round pick to even get off of Russell Westbrook because he was so trash by the time the trade deadline arose, and they could even get a package to get him out off the team. So anyway, they had one first-round pick to leverage. They were not going to give up Austin Reeves after how well he played in the postseason last year. And again, credit to D'Angelo Russell and Rui when he could. These guys responded the exact right professional way to unprofessional stuff. Is they sacked up and they started to ball the fuck out. And, you know, on one hand, it is admirable that they, again, did what they did. On the other hand, a bit concerning because if you could have played that well all season, why didn't you? I'm not sure, but whatever. that is that. So they didn't end up trying to get off Russell, at least not yet. And same thing with Rui Hachimura, the two main guys that they were apparently okay with using as trade pieces. And then they had the 1 first-round pick. So there was that. And then in addition, starting like this summer, after the season is actually done, they will have, I believe, 3 total first-round picks to use potentially. That's because there's a cap on how far into the future you can trade your draft capital and assets. So, for example, you can't be trading your 2067 first-round pick or something ridiculous, or else these stupid myopic teams like are always win right now. Aside from Sam Presti, literally every other team is like, I need to go. They would actually bankrupt themselves like the big banks in 2008, basically. That would happen if they didn't have these regulations in place. Okay. That is it for the storyline, guys. And that brings us to now, where I watched them last night have a great win over the LA Clippers. Again, they're right in the inner circle contender list of teams. They're 4th in the Western Conference, and I mean Paul George didn't play, but I think the Lakers at one point were down by 21 points, and they ended up coming back, and LeBron James scored 19 points in the fourth quarter alone by himself, and the Clippers as a team scored 16 total points in the fourth quarter. So, inspiring shit, and I don't know. I don't want to like really sour the bed and all this shit, but like that, the best case scenario from that is now that LeBron has really, got his and yada yada, I am actually very hopeful that this franchise is going to, again, be a normal basketball team and cultivate some kind of energy and juice where they are like, okay, we actually enjoy playing with each other. It is not a police state where King John LeBron is going to kill me and my family if I miss a shot. So, exciting. Let's talk about the basketball now. Holy shit, I'm so sorry this took so long. All right. Offense. All right, offense. All right, so how do the Lakers actually play basketball now? All right, well, they are 3rd in rim field goal percentage. They are 10th in three-point percentage. They are 5th in non-corner three-point percentage, and they are 7th in free throws. And then schematically, I mentioned this before, is they are 2nd in transition frequency, 7th in points scored in transition, and 9th in transition efficiency. So, summary really quick with offense is the Lakers have a reputation of being big, kind of clunky, slow, physical, and that is true to an extent. They are really good at the rim. Thank you, Anthony Davis. They are really good at free throws, top 10. Thank you, LeBron and Austin Reeves. And they are relatively serviceable from the three-point line, which is thank you, D'Angelo Russell, Taurean Prince, and Reeves, basically. And LeBron, actually. LeBron definitely gets a lot of credit. He is actually having a phenomenal three-point shooting year, like I just said about that Clippers game. He had like 7. No, he didn't have 7. He had 19 points. Dude, I think he hit like 5 threes in the fourth quarter alone. It was gnarly. Okay, so anyway, rim, free throws, some like three-point shooting to an extent. That is maybe the most classic LeBron James team roster build ever. In addition, the transition stuff is key. That's where I get like the slow and the clunkiness stuff. Like that's where it kind of breaks down to me. Like transition, I mean, I guess in a way is kind of clunky, but like LeBron James is still probably a top 5 fastest athlete in the league at age 39 when it comes to a straight line fucking race, basically. This dude is still insane. He got a really, really sick chase down block last night, too. Like, he can still turn on the burners and make that stuff happen. But, again, with this team, they do a lot of damage in transition, free throws, and rim. Defensively, they are 15th in opponents' effective field goal percentage, exactly middle of the pack, and they are 2nd in opponent free throws. Another like theme, basically, I know I said before, is like usually a pretty strong, serviceable defense around LeBron. That is very true. That is how they sort of do it. And then it's not just we are long and big and back to the the Mavs or the Minnesota Timberwolves where it's like lank and clog up passing lanes. Unlike the Wolves, for example, they are just very smart and like kind of the systematic defense stuff with LeBron's teams. Like they manifest in these kinds of ways. They give up free throws to their opponents the second least in the league. So they are smart in that sense. That being said, their overall defensive rating for the season has been 15th, and their opponent effective field goal percentage is 15th. So, like, middle of the pack so far. And that is that. I'm trying to knock out these strengths very quickly. Actually, let me just actually do the pros and cons together with offense and defense. Actually, no, I lied. Let me just stick with the strengths. I'm so sorry, guys. I got a brain overload, I guess. Okay, so the overall strengths here, I just gave you all the stats that I have for their offense and defense, but okay, sorry. Overall is defensive size and length. I know I just said it wasn't just those two. I got to modify it in here, but they also just don't give up that many free throws because, again, I think they are a very smart defensive team, especially spearheaded by LeBron, who, again, is probably the best IQ basketball mind, like literally better than coaches in the NBA, probably. Okay. Secondly is on offense, you have the physicality and fouls look fabulous. So as I've been saying this whole time, I think that foul drawing is incredibly, incredibly important and useful, and ceiling raising, I guess, is the right way to say it. Although for the Lakers, it is more of a floor raising thing because they need it. But that is it for the strengths. Oh, actually, the last thing I will say is the versatility at 3 and 4. So I am going to talk about the lineups later. Yeah. Coming up right here, actually. So let me go ahead and dive into that in a second. Okay. So that's it for strengths. Now let's go to weaknesses. Excuse me. Offensively, I said they were good at the rim, free throws, transition. Offensively, their effective field goal percentage is 10th in the NBA. That means, they're scoring relatively well. I mean, top 10 is top 10. That's great. They are 29th in the league in offensive rebounding. That is a thing, and that makes sense, especially when you have a LeBron James-initiated offense back in the old days of like Harden and Luka ball, similar with LeBron, especially in crunch time. You'll see the exact same thing is everybody get the fuck out the way and let me do my job. And the fact that I want to maximize my lane to the basket and what I want to do, that means that we're just not going to get rebounds. We're not going to get offensive boards. They are 29th in the league in offensive rebounding. That is the second worst in the entire league. So definitely a weakness for the team. And I will say, in addition to that, the fact that you have Anthony Davis alone, I'm surprised that you're that bad. Just literally having AD, I'm still surprised. But I digress. Similarly, defensively, they are 22nd in the league at defending the rim, and they are 21st in the league at defending the three-pointer. Schematically, they are 17th in the league when it comes to defensive rebounding or giving up offensive rebounds. So they are below average. They give up slightly more offensive rebound opportunities as well. That's surprising to me. Not as much as the rim defense. Again, with Anthony Davis, I'm not really sure. I almost want to double check that, but that is very interesting to me. The three-point defense, I think, makes a little more sense. Russell is not really a plus on defense. Prince really isn't either, and Prince is notorious for never rebounding. as well. But there you go. So not really great. And what I have that rolling up to is my number one overall weakness is small margin for error on offense. And what that means is they don't offensive rebound. They are relatively good at field goal percentage, so they don't miss a ton of shots. And again, those are two very related concepts, right? If you make all your shots, you will not even have any opportunity to get any offensive rebounds, so your rating is just going to be really low. But I'm surprised about that for AD. But if you don't offensively rebound and then you don't defend the rim or 3-point line really well, you don't have a great margin of error for these games. It gives me flashbacks to Phoenix, where they're just like, we're not really that good on defense and we don't care. And we're even worse at offensive rebounding. But they don't get to the free throw line, which weirdly enough for the LA Lakers is like an enormous deal and factor for them in winning any sort of matchup is free throws. I'm sure there's a stat about this, and I'm just thinking off the dome right now, but I would love to see the correlation of free throws to like winning percentage over the season. Like, I think if they shot like fewer than 10 free throws or something in a game, they probably like never won a single game if that was the case. All right, cool. Okay, so the last overall weakness is the one that I actually want to double click into. Is really my biggest sort of discovery, if you will. I know I took ages just storytelling and venting basically, but now we're talking about basketball, and to me this is very, very important to cover, and I don't hear it defined and articulated in this way. And it's not only relevant to the Lakers, but definitely Minnesota and other teams as well, okay? So the overall weakness here is, I've called it inconsistent strengths, arrow, leads to inconsistent lineups, parentheses, opponent dependent. Excuse me. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you have a roster filled with players with very apparent weaknesses, like they're very one-sided players, you are constantly reading and reacting to your matchups and plugging guys in and out anyway to try and plug holes, again, depending on the other team's strengths, which therefore thwarts your ability to generate and manufacture chemistry with each other, as well as consistency, at the expense of actually trying to improve the odds of you winning games. Okay, so this goes back to the ham and the curse of the IST ring thing, okay? After they won the in-season tournament and things started not being great, going great for the Lakers, what was the biggest thing you heard coming at Ham? People threw this out every fucking 5 seconds at this guy was, what are you doing with the lineups? Why isn't there more consistency? Why aren't you doing X? Why aren't you doing Z? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Listen to me. Look at the roster, guys, and take a look at who we have and what they can do well and what they cannot do well, okay? Taurean Prince is a minus on defense. Rui Hachimura is a minus on defense at a certain position. Vanderbilt is an enormous minus on offense. AD has to be near the basket because he is a huge minus on shooting the basketball away from the rim. Russell, another basically minus on defense. Like, I know when I say it this way, it doesn't sound like a unique thing, but like, listen to just the mental hula hoops or the mental hoops you have to go through if you are a member of the Lakers coaching staff in literally any of these games, right? When it comes to not only just designing the lineups and rotations themselves, like writing it out on a fucking sheet of paper, it's like actually managing in the game. Like, how long can we leave Torian Prince out there with 2 fouls in the first quarter. All of a sudden, you are just wheel spinning and you're just like, this is important, okay? So listen, at the one position, so point guard, are we going to do D'Angelo Russell or Gabe Vincent? When he comes back, obviously that's a wait and see one, and we got to see what kind of shape he's in and when he can ramp up. But especially before D'Lo started being very, very effective, that was a serious problem because D'Lo was drastically worse before he decided to be great and didn't want to get traded out of LA. So when he was trash, Reeves had to go in there. He was literally the only guy on the roster at that point to ball handle and somewhat playmake. I'm going to let you in on a secret right now. That is not Reeves's strong suit, or that should just not be his role, is the prime initiator. He's a great secondary playmaker. He is not the one guy, okay? Like, I'm trying to think of, like, I guess sort of an equivalent would be like the Devin Booker just becoming a point guard this year. Like, listen, if that team wasn't perfectly kind of orchestrated and architected around him, and, I mean, their sort of jump shooting style and all that stuff, like, there are just a lot of stars that are aligning for that system that makes it so he seems like a much more effective point guard than he actually is, I would say, as far as portability into different systems and stuff. Like, I don't actually think he's a phenomenal point guard. I just think, again, he like, the system is exactly what he already does, so it just functionally makes a lot of sense. Reeves, one, is not as good as Devin Booker, just fundamentally when it comes to just skills and reading the floor and all of the things that experience and shit, like, really offer, okay? And then two, like, the fact that so many of these lineups have been in flux in hopes of winning games as is just makes it that much harder for Reeves to, like, get a grip on, like, what the fuck to do when. Seriously. Like, sometimes you're going to have Anthony Davis and Vanderbilt, two non-shooters. Austin Reeves' entire offensive creation thing is, like, literally getting into the paint and either, you know, turn around, jump shot, flip shot, whatever, or drawing a foul. Oh my God, wouldn't you guess that when you have two non-shooters in your lineup, the paint is fucking clogged? So yeah, everyone out here being like, Reeves sucks now and he took a step back. Well, no shit, dude. What are we talking about? There's nowhere to go. Same with Anthony Edwards of Minnesota when they have Jaden McDaniels and Gobert. It's like, those dudes get fucked because there's nothing to do. If your game and strong suit is getting to the paint, the system around you is not lending itself to what your strengths are. Like, you understand what I'm saying? It's all circuitous. It all feeds back into itself. Okay, so Reeves cannot be the one if Russell is shitting the bed. Okay, great. Let's go now, and then that is not even including Vincent, who is supposed to be the release valve for Russell, and then you have Reeves just stepping in to try to cover up for the fact that Russell's shitting the bed, and, you know, obviously the health thing with Vincent, that's just unfortunate because he was out for a really long time, came back in, re-aggravated something, got surgery again, and now he's out until whatever, hopefully in March or whatever. So anyway, that's just its own peculiar health-related thing, but, like, fundamentally, that was never supposed to be Reeves to begin with. People like, the playmaking on the Lakers sucks. No shit it does, because that's not the plan. That wasn't the plan, okay? Next, you have shooting guard, Austin Reeves and Spencer Dinwiddie. You know, future-facing, I'm projecting out. Again, these are all the questions the staff are going to be asking themselves before and during the games. When are you going to leave Reeves in? When are you going to put Dinwiddie in? You know, how long are you going to leave Reeves in? How long are you going to put Dinwiddie in? This is partially a thing where I think both of them are, relatively speaking, kind of negatives on defense, and that's just the way it is going to be. But they also pose different questions because they have different strengths. That is the running theme here. Reeves, again, gets to the paint. Bron knows that he can drive and dish to Reeves. He might be the best closeout attacker on the team. He wants to get to the paint and draw fouls and do things and whatever. Dinwiddie does not want to do that nearly as much. Dinwiddie is a tough shot maker, kind of a gunslinger, And, to his credit, he is pretty fucking good at that. And that is really, really valuable to the Lakers, right? When they have these stretches where the ball gets very sticky and, like Russell is being, is deferring the playmaking and whatever is like, sometimes you just need a grenade launcher, right? And somebody's got to be able to take tough shots. Okay. Well, that's a little bit hard to scheme for in the moment when you're thinking about, oh man, maybe we should put Dinwiddie in. Like, I don't really know. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe, the team we're matched up with, their 3-point defense isn't that good. Does that mean we want more Reeves or we don't want more Reeves? If they're bad on defense, are they going to overcompensate, which might open up the closeout and the attack? You know what I'm saying? When are you going to put Dinwiddie in? Fuck, man. Yeah, I don't know. Figure that out. It doesn't stop. And then you have the 3 and the 4, the small forward, power forward position. You have just a collage of one-sided or at least incongruent players. Taurean Prince is literally useless if he is not making shots. People on podcasts, players will literally say and inquire that he will not rebound. He will not really exert himself on the defensive end consistently. Okay? But he can shoot the ball, which is very important when LeBron is playing the power forward and he needs a release valve to play make off of, or if he gets shut down or whatever the fuck, he needs somebody who can knock down shots. That would be Reeves, and that would be Prince, and that would be Russell, at least now, the version of Russell that we have seen now for a month and a half, who can actually make shots. Okay, good. So that's helpful. And then, of course, AD is going to be near the basket again, relatively speaking, non-shooter. So, that his man is going to be the help defense. If LeBron, beats his man one-on-one, that is what's going to happen. He's going to lob it and go in there. That is the ideal scenario for LeBron or Luka or whatever you want to say is everybody be really good at shooting. We got a rim pressure, lob threat, right, under the basket. And I am athletic enough, talented enough, skilled enough, where if I beat my man one-on-one, you are fucked. I'm going to lob it. If you commit to me, I'm going to score if you don't, or I'm going to pass it out, right? That's the simplest way possible. Okay. If Prince isn't hitting shots, though, back to my original point, you are in trouble because he is not a good defender. Seriously. And then it becomes a function of, okay, well, Rui is decent, but he's really not good at the small forward position, which is what Prince does. So then if Prince is not hitting shots and basically if we're bleeding kind of our defense, if he's getting picked on or whatever, or if he's missing rotation, we just got to get him the fuck out of there. So then it becomes then LeBron has to shift up to the small forward, and then Rui has to go into the 4 because Rui's just not fast enough and not good enough to guard small forwards, let alone guards. So then it's multiple things have to move in order for that to work. And then you are sitting on the landmine that is Jared Vanderbilt, which I am sorry if I'm going to come out really hot here. I am physically warm, and that's why I had to pause the video briefly and air this place out because it is fucking warm and it is not even the end. It is still February, and I'm overheated in my apartment. That is not good. I don't want to say I can't understand why, or I don't understand why, going all the way back to even Shaquille O'Neal, right? Of how on earth could you just objectively be so bad at free throw shooting if you have just literally shot that many free throws? How is it possible to be that bad? I am almost at that point with Jared Vanderbilt when it comes to not just free throw shooting, because at least free throw shooting is 1v1, that is you versus the rim. There is even less of an excuse there. So that is why I'm holding out on this. But there is almost nothing that Vanderbilt provides on the offensive end. And it is absolutely mind-boggling to me. So as a team, like I said, they are second last in offensive rebounding as a team this season. So do not even tell me the thing about, he just swallows up boards and goes all Josh Hart on him and gets No, he doesn't. No, he just clogs the lane, doesn't even shoot, doesn't even space out to the perimeter, doesn't even shoot shots, which, I guess, granted, it is so terrible for him as far as shooting and being an offensive weapon that it doesn't even matter if he is behind the arc or in the other dunker spot on the other side of the rim, because the other team literally will not even close out to him. It is worse than Josh Giddey, if that is even possible. But he is an unbelievably undisputed, like, top 10 all-around defensive weapon in the entire league. So everything I'm saying so far with the strengths and some of the weaknesses and what has to happen if that person doesn't have it going, and then that, and then this other thing, in my opinion, the perfect microcosm of that is the Vanderbilt Anthony Davis lineups. Okay? That Golden State game, I believe I mentioned it before, I can't even remember now, that the Lakers won in, oh no, I don't think I mentioned it. It was an unbelievable game. They won in double overtime. I literally don't even remember when in the season it was, but they won in double overtime. It was unbelievable. I remember taking notes on it, and what I kept writing down from the end of regulation to the end of the first overtime to the end of the second overtime was exactly what I'm going to say right here. It's not quite kamikaze suicide to have Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis on the floor together, but it is pretty damn close. Every single last possession in all three of those periods, whatever, when the Lakers were either tied or needed the basket in order to win the game, they obviously put it in LeBron's hands. And then what do? You do what I just said before, is to maximize LeBron James's effectiveness, you spread the fuck out and leave him with just him, the center in the middle, and spread everyone else out. Do not miss the shot when I pass it to you. Do not fuck up the lob, Anthony Davis, when I pass it to you, or I might, score on you. What happened 3 consecutive times on those final possessions? Darvin Ham decided, to keep Vanderbilt in the game. You are playing Steph Curry, the greatest shooter to ever play. I can understand that. Honestly, he is a top 5 player in the league still, whatever you want to say about that. And you actually kind of need his defensive, proficiency and acumen to at least even bother him enough to slow him down, right? But the fact that he is so unbelievably useless on offense resulted in LeBron getting swallowed 3 times in a row. Dudes, it was Andrew Wiggins and then I think Klay Thompson, literally could walk and come all the way to the other side of the floor where LeBron was attacking or whatever, from the left wing. Vanderbilt could be in the completely opposite corner and he would still be right in front of LeBron. That is how much Vanderbilt sucks at shooting. And LeBron was just swallowed every single time because they are just helping off of, again, these one-sided guys. Anthony Davis wasn't the issue. I think in that scenario, it was Vanderbilt and I believe Prince was, struggling from the line or something. Vando's the prime example of that. Obviously they're not going to help off of Anthony Davis because he's, again, one of the greatest lob finishers ever. But the fact that, you don't have, I can't remember if it was Reeves or Rui or I want to say it was Prince. But anyway, Vando's an absolute non-factor. And then you had one other guy who just didn't have it going or whatever. And so anyway, you had Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins just swallowing LeBron after he was able to get past Draymond Green, who is still a top 10 defensive player in the league. That is not easy to do already. But then afterwards to just get whacked by 2 dudes, and he still was having to, and the worst part too is in my opinion, is one of the biggest things that LeBron gets knocked for and clowned on is you are not a killer, you need to take the last shot every time. Well, he fucking had to this time, and all 3 of these times, because he's not going to spray it out to Vanderbilt, I'll tell you that. And so we ended up taking absurdly tough shots, and it was gross to watch. It was really gross to watch. And clearly I care, and this matter, whatever, but it's not that hard to understand. I haven't studied the fucking league for a decade or something. It is not that hard to think to yourself, why is LeBron, I can barely even see him on the teleprompter or the TV. Why didn't he just pass? Isn't that his strength? Isn't that what he's supposed to be? It's because his team sucks at shooting, dude. It's the limitations of the roster. So, sorry, to put a ribbon on this is you have strengths and weaknesses, innate ones as far as the roster is concerned, which then means in the game itself, you are constantly asking yourself, who can guard X, who can actually guard X, or in Rui's case, who can actually guard guards. And then most importantly, by far, as everyone knows, is who the fuck can make a shot tonight? Seriously. Like Bron is going to get his 20 to 25 a night. AD is going to get his 20 and 15 or 20 and 10 or whatever every single night. So what is that? Like 55, 60 points at best, let's say? Or I'm sorry, let's say 50 points. Sorry, 25 is 50. You need, 120 points to be a potent offense, at least top 10 or something, whatever? Who the fuck else is putting up the rest of those points? Seriously. I have here in my notes is the small margin of error on offense, like I'm saying. Again, if you can't defend the rim really well, you can't defend the three-point line really well, you're not necessarily rebounding really well, and your offensive stuff is, again, it all is coming at a cost. You can't expect everybody to be a beautiful two-way player, whatever, Keegan Murray, or you know what I'm saying, whatever you want, PJ Washington or something, I don't know. But from the rest of the roster, back to the LeBron AD, let's say we have 50 points, we need to get to 120, let's say, so we need 70 more points. You need, 3 or 4 other guys to have 70 more, let's say 3 guys to have 60, so that'd be 20 points. Who else is going to give you a consistent 20 points a night on this roster? Reeves? Hopefully. Prince? I don't think so. Russell recently looks pretty consistent, but before, again, February 1st, hell no. Vanderbilt, hell no. Vincent hasn't played. You understand what I'm saying is somehow, some way, you need to figure out how you are going to get points. And again, that ultimately brings it back to transition. Transition is kind of positionless, and then it's just who can run faster, who is bigger, who can finish through contact, that kind of shit. So, you know what I mean? It's not even a function necessarily of team roster strength and construction. That is just be faster. So, that is a concern of mine going forward. All right. So that is it for the overall weaknesses. To bring it all the way back to the top is inconsistent strengths, arrow lead to inconsistent lineups. Parentheses, opponent dependent. Constantly needing to be asking yourself, who can stop the bleeding on defense? Who has it going tonight on offense? And ultimately, I just have a lot more empathy than it seems mostly anybody else I listen to when it comes to Darvin Ham. This dude has tried, and this roster is whack. And so the lineup takes against this dude, I've just seen people call for his fucking head off the guillotine. Yo, look at the team, bro. What are we talking about? This team, again, it's not that good. And it really hasn't been. And so it really doesn't shock me that it has taken a lot of trial and error and, again, all these questions to figure out these answers, to get a feel for that, to communicate with the guys and work collaboratively to, figure out the chemistry in the rotations themselves so that, you can squeeze out a little bit more offensive potency between, your Russells and Ruiz and whatever, the Vando slashes and shit like that. So that is what I will say, especially for Darvin Ham. I have a lot of empathy, but of course, you take those issues and you extrapolate out to now looking forward is those are still going to be very relevant issues, but in the playoffs, what's different is LeBron James is going to have the ball, right? 39 years old, whatever you want to say about that. he is still more than physically able and mentally able to initiate and lead, at least on offense, this team. And you saw it last night with LA. He just torched them. R.I.P. Daniel Tice. That was humiliating. Okay? So, next, I want to move into the intangibles, strengths, and weaknesses quickly, and then I'm going to get you guys out of here. Takeaways, focus areas really quick, okay? Hi. All right, sweet. So we are going to finish this up, like I said, with the intangible strengths and weaknesses, takeaways, focus areas, and way too early projections, because everything could change in the span of the next month and a half. Okay. Intangible strength number one, most important in my opinion, is experience. That is in groundbreaking. Considering LeBron James has more just experience than some guys he's played against have been alive. Like, he has just been around forever. He has seen virtually every single configuration of defensive schemes, offensive schemes, etc. So, I just think having the highest IQ guy probably in the league and potentially in the arena that they are playing in the postseason is really important, okay? And then secondly, I have continuity. Excuse me. Didn't make a huge swing at the trade deadline, thank God, honestly. Didn't bring in DeJounte Murray or anybody else, so I think that helps because... obviously, you're not reintegrating a star, and you're having to figure that out, not to mention the ego stuff, which side note, I'm just excited that is going to happen less and less with the new sort of trade rules coming down the pipeline for next season. Excuse me. So continuity will help there. And then I also like it, and this is going to segue to the third one, which is toughness. I just kind of like the fact that they have just gone through all of that bullshit that I outlined for the first, hour to you. That to me kind of matters. Weirdly and very, very weirdly, I could see, Russell's success in this postseason being, the narrative being, oh, man, thank you, LeBron, for, giving me all of that anxiety and, pushing me to become the player. I don't know, man. I know that sounds outlandish and wild, but listen, I could kind of see something like that happening and seeing guys rise to the occasion, especially with LeBron, being 39 and being second best player of all time, that kind of stuff, to be a part of a franchise run that has a guy like that on it is not only, one, good for you being in the spotlight to begin with, but two, it's just kind of cool to be a part of. So I just like the idea of that, again, with the continuity piece. We got Russell redemption arc. Reeves proved himself last postseason, which I think is important. And I think his path and approach and how he drove so much value is a little more portable to this season, in that last year I don't think he was very high on the scouting report and did well. This year I don't think that will be the case. However, it wasn't like he was just getting these layups or wide open threes and cashing them in. No, he's just a tough dude who just gets to the paint, draws fouls, and makes kind of tough-looking shots, honestly. So if you got a plan to kind of stop that play style, all power to you. But, as far as it goes, I kind of like that. The other thing with the toughness, too, I will say, and not to get too soapboxy and, AP Lit or whatever here, like a fucking feelings author, but similar to the thing about them being in the ringer with LeBron and all the legacy and all the pressure and, oh my God, now we're with the team and the team didn't get traded and I'm here and so now I get to be part of this. That's amazing. There's also just the underlying part to me that I feel like still deserves to be mentioned where, and I think it was Malika Andrews who broke the story with Woj about, I think, Joe Lacob, the owner of the Warriors, calling Jeannie Buss about potentially trading to get LeBron on the Warriors or whatever. I have very strong reservations about the veracity of that report, first and foremost. This feels like a classic, gas up the Lakers, like kind of running their own narrative here to, again, I didn't even mention that. Holy crap. I am so sorry. I didn't even mention that in the season summary. That literally happened. Was ESPN, whatever, broke the story that Joe Lacob, the owner of the Golden State Warriors, apparently, like, the talks had progressed to the level, like, sometimes, you just got people in one organization a couple levels down from the actual owner who has to be there, to stamp the approval or whatever the fuck, but, you have people like 2-3 levels below them talking to other people that are 2-3 levels below them, and that's how talks start or whatever, but, well, sometimes, but, my point is that the report at least claimed that it was at the owner-to-owner level of discussions, meaning it had substance, it was a real thing. It did not obviously happen, but that happened really close to the trade deadline. Apparently, Draymond Green was trying to facilitate that. Him and LeBron are very, very close. Whatever, Green has a house in LA, and obviously LeBron, and they're probably in the hills and doing whatever the fuck they do when you have all that money. But the point is on that episode of Zach Lowe's podcast where Malika came on and explained all of this stuff that I'm telling you about that is relevant to kind of the snapshot, is she brought up a very obvious kind of point, but the way she delivered it was very moving to me. It was that, like, you don't do what LeBron is kind of doing, and not just in terms of scoring and all the box score stats, but you don't even like continue to propel this kind of career with the flights and the being away from the family and doing all the media and like all this shit at 39 years old, on top of performing all of that, keeping your body conditioned, keeping your mind conditioned, mentally healthy, physically disgustingly healthy, all of this stuff, unless you are revoltingly committed and dedicated to your craft. It gets me choked the fuck up to even like talk about it like that, kind of, but like that is very true to me, and she is basically, a Lakers spokesperson, basically. All of these ESPN reporters who are like stationed they're just representatives of the franchise at this point. They're always just going to gas them up, basically, and I think. That was a really great point to raise. And the reason I bring it up here is under the context of the intangible strength being toughness. Dude, the fact that LeBron obviously has a scoring title now is ridiculous. The fact that he is able to even average upwards of 35 to 40 minutes a game, literally just from a physical perspective, not even the output and production, is insane. The actual production is insane. All of the things I've already said in terms of the mental and psychological, just whatever, mastery and attention and whatever, just ability to forge through, an absurdly long season and blah, 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 blah. I just think that has to matter as far as inspiring the rest of his team. You'll notice on the team as well, they don't really have, Max Christie is their really young kid, but there's no like really, really young guys, so I don't want it to sound like he's like grandpa over here and like, galvanizing the preschoolers, but like, listen, these guys are kind of a ragtag team of dudes that I could see ending up in this weird kind of junkyard dog trajectory where it's like, look at what LeBron is doing. We are here. The trade deadline is passed, so, it is what it is. Guys like Russell and Rui, look, you guys proved to Pelinka and Braun and ownership or whatever, like, I don't want to say you earned your spot to stay there, but kind of, and there are obviously different factors, but fuck it, why not think that way? Like, you belong to be here. Let's get it going. This is special. Braun is special. This season is special. Braun didn't get his way, even though I know I ripped him apart. But listen, it doesn't matter now. I could just see the toughness being a thing here, guys. Like, why not? Yeah, so I just think that can matter. Okay. Last thing with the closers, and a couple different things here. One is the free throw stuff. I really, really think that matters, especially when you think about wearing out teams like the Clippers and Phoenix, who don't really get themselves to the line very much. They're jump shooters, space and pace, small ball shit. That is what it is. The Lakers clearly aren't amazing at defending the three-point line as is, but they don't give up that many free throws. They get a fuck ton of free throws. They are big and long, so they can get to the rim very well. They're 10th in three-point makes, so they're at least serviceable, and they make you run. They are second in transition frequency, 7th in total points, and 9th in efficiency, whatever. My point is, with these pace and space guys, something you will find interesting is health is always the biggest concern. And what I talked about specifically in the Phoenix breakdown is probably a hot take that you may or may not have heard yet is I'm not so sure that like traditional health will be their biggest kind of, I guess, ceiling determinant, if you will. I actually think fatigue might be. I think that needs to be more central in the conversation here, because particularly with Phoenix specifically, they are different from the Clippers in my brain because the Clippers actually have depth, first of all. But secondly, Phoenix is so absurdly and obviously reliant on the self-created mid-range pull-up game or whatever that requires a lot of energy. It just literally does. And if you go check out my Phoenix video where I talked about this in detail, but if you are getting run up and down the floor on in transition, fatigue will start to matter. If you get bodied the fuck up and end up in foul trouble or getting just generally bodied by, drawing fouls or, the other team drawing fouls on you, running right into you in transition or not, that's going to add to the fatigue. And you're already tasked with just expending a lot of money, running all over the floor and creating your own shots, honestly. Like, let's be real, right? So, I like that a lot for this team. And so the free throws matter, the transition frequency matters, and obviously you have LeBron, who is just, has done this a million times. Reeves has proven, sort of his toughness as well. And we'll just kind of see. But as far as the closers go, I really like obviously Brown at the helm and everybody else kind of following along. So, late in game, the free throw game or whatever, I like that a lot. Okay, intangible weaknesses. Number one, or rather number two. Well, actually, I'll just start with number one. Number one I have is health. That is looking at Gabe Vincent and Vanderbilt, getting back into the lineup, reintegrate them, whatever. Everything I was saying about the lineup stuff and the rotation stuff is extremely relevant. Vando obviously is a little bit better because he has played most of the season. Vincent, to me, is going to be potentially the biggest X factor on this team, and it's not even like a Michael Porter Jr. for Denver, for example. If that dude just randomly averages 25 points a night, nobody is touching Denver. I'm going to tell you that right now, okay? And Michael Porter Jr., like last year, decides to be a positive on defense. What? Good luck. I think similarly with the Lakers is they have serviceable defensive apparatus in place already. Vincent could be a really useful utility tool for the offensive end, at least from what we saw in Miami. We'll see how he looks after the injury, recovery, whatever. So hopefully he's okay. And then obviously we got to get Dinwiddie in there as well. I know that's not a health thing, but just related to that. Okay, the second thing is the identity stuff, which I've covered in great detail as far as a weakness might go. Darvin Ham is... There is a world where Darvin Ham is the actual MVP of the Lakers postseason run because he is the guy pulling the levers and telling people when to play and pulling them out when they get in foul trouble. And everything I've said so far, I'm not going to say it again, that is going to be really helpful. So as far as identity goes, what's the scheme, who are we going to run plays for, who has it going on offense, all that stuff, I'm putting it in as a weakness because, it's more or less kind of coaching pressure, and I should have added it here to be consistent with Minnesota. Chris Finch is in a similar boat here, but that's really what I mean. Okay, overall takeaways. 1, better playoff team than regular season team, yes, it's possible. What do I mean by that? the fact that they have optionality of very strong strengths, despite them being one-sided a lot of the time in here, or at least they come at a cost, potential cost, I think renders them as potentially, a potentially more effective team when it comes to a 7-game series potentially of like, this is the luxury of the playoffs is I, LeBron James, get to spend the next 2 weeks studying you and getting inside of your head day in and day out. And I am going to learn all of your schemes, all of your weaknesses, and obviously I know all of mine, and I am going to crack your code, and I am going to make you uncomfortable. From the roster strength, roster construction side, again, I do think that, yes, it would be easier if they were like the Golden State Warriors in 2017 or something, or whatever the fuck else, or the Boston Celtics this year, where everybody is good on both sides of the ball. Obviously, that's ideal. You don't have that. But, again, when you have one opponent for 2 weeks, you can really dial it in. And I just think that needs to be one of the biggest storylines for the season for the Lakers so far is, yes, they struggled in the regular season. Yes, like Austin Rivers said, the Lakers just get all of the drama. Everybody overreacts to literally everything that happens for no fucking reason. They're going to be good. I truly believe this. I think they're going to be better than people expect because they are just inherently a better playoff team than a regular season team. Also, not to mention the fact that, LeBron is going to go up in the minutes. He's able, more than physically and mentally able to do that, but also he's going to initiate a lot more. And that is just, I'm sorry, a better prospect than, I don't know. I would say overall with Russell, if he keeps it going with looking like low-key a top 10 point guard in the league somehow out of nowhere, maybe not, but you understand what I mean. LeBron's going to take the sticks. He's going to be the pilot a lot more of the time. He's going to get to break you down. And we're actually going to be able to not have to be clamoring and clap whatever every night for these regular season games. So there you are. So related to that is the inconsistent strengths lead to inconsistent lineups, parentheses, opponent dependent, basically exactly what I already said. I'm not going to rehash that. That has been a big part of the underlying reasoning for their, the Darvin Ham lineup hate and all of this up and downness of we got to figure things out. We're waiting, health hasn't been great and yada yada. You just have a roster of a lot of dudes who can do one thing really well on one side of the ball and not well on the other side of the ball. And you're just constantly asking yourself, when should I put this person in and when do I put the other person in? Who can actually score points tonight? It's really hard to develop chemistry, right? When you're just in, out, okay, I don't really know. This matchup, this is not going to work, whatever. It's just very, very choppy and difficult. But it kind of is what you need to do with a roster like that in order to put your team in the best position to actually win games. You're not going to kamikaze this shit with Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis clogging the lane and pray that Prince and Reeves can both shoot 42% from three. No. Okay? So last but not least, you have fouls and physical play look fabulous in the playoffs. Already said that. So related to the regular season team, foul drawing matters, physical play really matters, and I think that particularly in the event that they get matched up, there's so much parity in the league, it is what it is, but I don't know. If Phoenix or the Kings or something like that, if there is a world where, they match up with some of these smaller pace and space teams, I really like the Lakers' odds with that. They're really good at the rim, they're really good at getting the free throws, and they're really good in transition. And I can't even remember if I said this or not. I'm going to just say it again really, really briefly, though. I really like the way the Lakers match up, and this is why I take them in the edge in the play-in tournament. Well, actually, I take that back. A one-game sudden death elimination is fucked. I would not put money on that, honestly. That is a cataclysm waiting to happen. That is like World War III. In Adam Silver's mind, I can't imagine. They have to be the two biggest franchises in terms of ratings, is the Lakers and the Warriors. So aside from Steph Curry tearing his ACL or just either of them just not making the playoffs or the Warriors somehow not making the playoffs at this point. I don't know. This is almost the worst case scenario for Adam Silver. I'm sure he doesn't love that, but that's obviously going to be a super exciting game. What I was going to say is the style that the Lakers have, or at least have shown that they can have, that is a reliable go-to strategy, is rim, free throws, transition. Physicality and size, we're going to do it that way. That bodes well against your Suns, Clippers, Warriors, Kings, whatever. So I think that's going to just come up with the floor and ceiling in my way too early projections. But I like that a lot. So that is something to keep in mind for the Lakers. Okay. Focus areas, very intuitively, we need to solidify the lineups to integrate guys and build chemistry. I already touched on that. We have Vincent, Vando. I know Dinwiddie isn't injured, but he's just new. So you have 3 bench guys who very well could be playing solid rotation minutes for you that literally just need to be integrated to the fucking team. So, like, do that a lot. And then especially with Vincent, I don't want to say he's like the be-all, end-all, X-Factor guy, but being the backup point guard means you actually have to get to know the guys you're typically playing with off the bench. Based on what I've seen from Vincent last season, especially being a Miami product, I love that from the jump. But, again, I would really, really prioritize that. Vincent, where does Rui like the ball? He's a mid-range shooter guy. Okay, great. Vando, can we work on the slashes? Like, when are you going to do this? If I'm there, could you do that? Like, that kind of stuff. That's big. Okay, and then last but not least is keep the supporting cast spooked to play better, I guess. All right, well, ending it on a lighter note, obviously that's a joke that is referencing the hourglass emojis and the LeBron storming into the locker room, and I fucking hate you all, and it's yada yada, I'm a diva. What happened when he did that? And I'm sure this could be the craziest narrative flip you've ever heard, is if... I don't even know. If things go really well for the Lakers, I won't even say exactly what it is, but if things go really well, right, wait for the narrative to be from LeBron, right, is like, oh yeah, no, I knew I was really just putting all that pressure on D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves and all these guys, like, really step it up, that's really what I want to do, is that's all I was doing. I was just trying to get that, the hourglass was for them. I mean, we didn't have time. We gotta get up in the standings, like, Jesus, dude. So obviously D'Lo responded really well. You got to give props where they're due. If he can sustain this, I will be very, very impressed, and he is a big time ceiling raiser for them. Excuse me. But that is really what I mean. So keep the guys confident, keep them fresh. Also makes me think back to the Boston upset. Dude, I just hope that, like I said, with the toughness stuff and whatever, and the continuity, intangible strength stuff, like, that is the kind of stuff we look for. That is the kind of stuff that matters. That was Sacramento last year. That was Oklahoma City this year. Guys want to play for each other, and now that they don't have to worry about buying new fucking real estate in Charlotte, let's just go ahead and do this, all right? Cool. Way too early projections. I have my floor in the play-in exit realm. Holy hell, would I not want to play the Golden State Warriors in a one-game sudden death elimination? Yeah, there is not a single team in the NBA that I would not have to put their floor as a play-in exit if they were glued next to the Warriors in the play-in race. Like, the Warriors are just the ultimate, like, ants, spider, be gone, repellent type of, like, oh my God, do not get near me with that shit. No way. The Warriors are obviously small and quick and all that shit and whatever you want to say. Okay, great. But the thing about shooting teams and haste and space stuff is you are just 120-point quarter from Klay Thompson away from that shit being gone, man, and fuck all that. That's what I will say about that. No, thank you. Okay, so the floor there will be the play and exit, and then The ceiling is, I have right now the conference finals. Again, we'll put more analysis into that, and honestly, I really want to see how Denver's going to match up. Right now, they're 3. They would match up with the Pelicans. If you watch my Pelicans breakdown, you will see, or you will remember that I do not trust them at all. I don't think they're a serious team, so I might kind of think about chilling in the 3rd place if I was the Nuggets. I guess that assumes the Pelicans are going to keep pace, so I don't know. But the Pelicans actually, I think, have the lowest floor of all top 10 teams, all of the contending, air quote, teams in the Western Conference. I actually think the Pelicans are the worst, or definitely have the lowest ceiling, in my opinion. Okay. That is that. Oh, yeah, sorry. And then the only reason I brought that up is Denver's going to make the conference finals for sure, and then that's going to be it's up to you. Do you want Nuggets, Clippers? The Lakers beat the Clippers last night with no Paul George, but it took a 19-point fourth quarter from LeBron to do that, and again, they didn't even have Paul George, who's been averaging 22, 5, and 4 or something on 40% three-point shooting. Good luck. I don't know about that, but we'll get there. All right, guys. Anyway, I want to end that there. Thank you all so much for listening. That is it for the Lakers segment. We are through it. I apologize it was so long. You probably figured it would be. There is just way too much that people know about this team, and that is just kind of the way it is. So thank you so much. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It really, really means a lot. Clearly, I care a lot, and it was a lot of work, but a lot of fun producing each one of these episodes here. And so if you want to support us, if you want to yell at us, if you want to just tell us, a proverbial pat on the back, it goes a long way. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkShank, and you can email us at TheThinkShank. I'm Skyler Reinhardt, and you can find me on Twitter at ReinhardtSkyler and Instagram at SkylerSamReinhardt. Thank you all so much again, and so excited for the rest of the season, guys.